They say you never really know someone until they ask you to destroy your own dignity. Well, I can confirm, that's not just a saying. That's a life experience. I thought I knew my wife. 7 years together. 7 birthdays, 7 anniversaries, 7 years of, what do you want for dinner? And did you take the trash out? I knew every little detail. Her laugh lines, the way she talked to herself while folding laundry, the little dance she did when she found a sale on throw pillows. I thought I had her figured out. And then came that Friday night. She sat across the dinner table, all dressed up like she was auditioning for a role in I'm Single and Ready to Ruin Lives. Lipstick brighter than brake lights, heels sharp enough to file a lawsuit. She looked expensive. The kind of expensive that makes you check your bank app before complimenting her. I remember saying, big plans after dinner? She smiled, that slow, polite kind of smile people give when they're about to rob you but don't want to be rude about it. Just wanted to try something new, she said. Oh, something new. Right. That was the night she asked me to agree to something that would gut our marriage but still keep me around to pay the mortgage. The woman sitting there? That wasn't my wife. That was a stranger wearing her face. I'm Daniel Foster, by the way. 35. Been swinging hammers and pouring concrete for 15 years. My hands look like they could sand a 2x4 just by clapping. I build things that last. Houses, decks, sometimes even people's faith in gravity. There's something honest about construction. You measure twice, cut once, and if it's solid, it stands the test of time. I thought my marriage was built the same way. Turns out, it was more of a DIY project gone wrong. Michelle and I had a good run, or so I thought. We met when she was 25, working as a receptionist at a dental office. She had that approachable beauty, not runway model, more like girl next door who actually calls you back. She laughed easy, listened well, made even weather talk feel meaningful. We didn't have kids. Michelle said she wasn't ready yet. Wanted to enjoy being married first. I didn't argue. I figured we had time. Big mistake. Turns out enjoy being married meant enjoy being admired by other men while technically married. Still, for years we had our rhythm. I worked long hours, 60 hours a week sometimes, came home with sawdust in my hair and she was there at the door. Sometimes with dinner, sometimes just with that look that said, you smell like drywall but I love you anyway. We'd eat, talk about our days. Mine full of subcontractors who couldn't tell level from plumb, hers full of grocery store gossip and neighborhood drama. Weekends. Coffee in bed, errands, the occasional argument about whether the throw pillows were decorative or functional. Even our intimacy had its pattern, not wild, just warm. Familiar. Comfortable. Like an old couch you actually like sitting on. Then 6 months ago things started to shift. Michelle joined what she called a social group. 5 or 6 neighborhood women who drank wine like it was a competitive sport and called themselves empowered. I thought it was cute at first. She'd been lonely while I was working. I figured it was healthy. Turns out, healthy was code for hazardous to marriage stability. The first clue was her wardrobe. Suddenly, the woman who used to wear yoga pants to the grocery store was dressed like she just walked out of a music video. Low-cut tops, skirts shorter than a lunch break, dresses that could trigger a midlife crisis from 50 yards away. When I asked, she'd wave me off. Oh, I just felt like trying something different, she'd say, twirling her hair like she was auditioning for the role of new personality. I wanted to ask, different from what, being married? But I didn't. I'm a builder, not a fighter. And those clothes? They weren't from Target. I know our budget. If a new pair of work boots makes me sweat, those outfits should have caused a full-blown panic attack. Then came the phone. Her new best friend. She was glued to it 24/7, texting, giggling, taking calls in the other room like she was plotting a heist. Who are you talking to so much? I asked once. She rolled her eyes. Just the girls. You wouldn't get it. Right. Because the girls apparently had state secrets to protect. I told myself to chill, everyone needs privacy. But privacy slowly turned into secrecy, and secrecy started sounding like laughter behind closed doors. The intimacy? Gone. Replaced by, I'm tired, I have a headache, and my personal favorite, you wouldn't understand. Our weekend mornings, once sacred coffee and pancake time, turned into her rushing to brunch with the girls. And the way she'd talk about them, God. If I heard one more story about how free and empowered Sarah or Jennifer felt, I was going to start charging them rent for living in my head. Sarah left her husband because he was holding her back, she'd say, sipping wine like she just narrated a TED Talk. Jennifer's exploring her options, she'd add with this dreamy expression, like she was discussing travel destinations instead of infidelity. I wanted to clap and say, Wow, what strong independent women, bravely destroying families one mimosa at a time. But I didn't. I just listened. And something clicked. These weren't friends. These were homewreckers with a group chat. They met at restaurants that cost more than my monthly truck payment, bragged about living authentically, which apparently meant lying creatively. They validated each other's cheating like it was a self-help exercise. And every time Michelle came back from one of these outings, she was buzzing, glowing, like she just inhaled confidence straight from a bottle. She never looked that alive after spending time with me. Her eyes would light up when she talked about them. Her social group, her empowered friends, the ones apparently single-handedly saving the world from boring marriages. But the moment she glanced at me, the glow vanished faster than my paycheck after tax day. I could see her comparing me, mentally rating me against these women's fantasy lives. The warm greeting at the door, the one that used to make me feel like I'd won a small lottery just by coming home, gone. Poof. Vanished. Dinner became her solo performance. Monologues about friends leaving uninspiring marriages to chase real happiness. And me? I was supposed to clap and nod, I guess. When I tried to engage to talk about something besides the social club, she delivered the world's most efficient one-word answers. Sure, fine. Then right back to her phone like it had suddenly become a more interesting human than me. I noticed a lot. But confrontation? Nah. Part of me clung to hope. Maybe it was just a phase, middle-age restlessness, a need to feel young and attractive again. Maybe she was finding herself, rediscovering female friendships she'd missed out on while I was out being, the responsible spouse. So I worked harder. Extra projects. Longer hours. Bigger paychecks. Gifts. Dinner dates. I even tried subtle stuff like leaving chocolate on her pillow, the small romantic gestures that once earned me actual affection rather than a cursory glance. Wrong. Every effort just made her contempt for me more obvious. My hard work? Not admirable. Just blue-collar drudgery. My faithfulness? Not loyalty. Boring predictability. Apparently, being a dependable husband automatically disqualified me from being interesting. And then came the text. One Thursday night, Michelle was in the bathroom, primping for wine night, her weekly ritual of making herself look like a Marvel villain with a better social life than me. Her phone buzzed on the dresser. Reflexively, I glanced at it. Not snooping. Just human. The preview read, "Did you tell him about the open marriage thing yet? You can't keep living this lie forever." I froze. My blood went cold. Open marriage? What? Was this some new reality show I hadn't been cast in? Then I heard her voice, quiet, conspiratorial, but ridiculously excited. "No, he has no idea," she whispered. "He's too busy playing blue-collar hero to notice anything. Tomorrow night, I'm going to tell him." Laughter followed. Ice water in my veins. This wasn't my wife. This was a stranger corrupted by months of poison served up by her social circle like a badly catered party platter. Fast forward to Friday evening. I came home after 12 hours of concrete, 90-degree heat, shirt drenched, muscles screaming, dreaming of nothing more than a shower and maybe a quiet dinner with my wife. Michelle was in the living room, immaculately dressed like she was going somewhere glamorous, and here's the kicker, nowhere I was invited. Hair perfect, makeup flawless, black dress low enough to make me rethink everything, short enough to make me question marital etiquette. She was scrolling through her phone, that same smarmy smile playing at her lips. "Hey," I said, dropping my bag like a man who just survived a day in hell. "You look nice." "Going out again?" She glanced up briefly, flat, dismissive. "No, actually," I replied, trying optimism. "Thought we could stay in tonight, maybe talk." Her tone froze me faster than my cold coffee this morning. This wasn't a wife wanting connection. This was someone ready to announce a life-altering decision. "Let me grab a shower, then maybe dinner?" I tried. "I was thinking we could just talk now," she interrupted, setting the phone aside like it had been some primitive tool holding her back from dominance. "There are things we need to discuss about our marriage." I stood there, still dusty, still tired, looking at the woman who once massaged my sore shoulders and marveled at my work ethic. Now she looked at me like I had tracked mud through the Louvre. "Okay," I said, sitting across from her, bracing myself. "What's on your mind?" She inhaled like she was preparing for a legal deposition. "Daniel, I've been thinking about us, about what I want from life, about whether this marriage is really working anymore." "What do you mean?" I asked, already sensing trouble. "You come home every day covered in dirt, exhausted, talking about nothing but job sites and crew problems," she said, cold, precise. "We eat, watch TV, go to bed. Rinse, repeat. When did we last do anything exciting?" When did we last have a conversation that made me think? Her words hit like concrete blocks. I tried reason. Michelle, I work 60 hours a week so you don't have to. That's what we agreed on. I never agreed to be a 1950s housewife waiting around for her blue-collar husband to validate her existence. Construction worker? She shot back, voice sharp now. The way she said it made my entire career sound like I'd failed humanity. Like something to be ashamed of. This was from a woman who'd been living off my construction worker income for 7 years. 7 years of back-breaking labor, concrete dust in my hair, and sawdust under my nails, and now suddenly my existence was apparently insufficient. What kind of dreams? I asked, though I had a sneaking suspicion I already knew. Michelle shifted in her chair, like she was about to drop a bomb on the peace treaty of our marriage. I want to feel alive again, Daniel. Passion. Excitement. Connection with people who stimulate me intellectually and emotionally. And I don't stimulate you? I asked, doing my best to sound calm. Also trying really hard not to laugh. Not that I was laughing yet. Not anymore, she replied without hesitation. Maybe you never did and I was just too young to realize it. Ah yes. 7 years of marriage all boiled down to youthful ignorance. 7 years of love, loyalty and paying the bills, suddenly just a mistake she'd outgrown. So, I said, trying to sound casual while internally considering whether I should start charging rent for air in this house. What are you saying? You want a divorce? No, she said quickly, like I just suggested she eat the last slice of pizza without asking. I don't want to throw away everything we've built together. The house, the financial security, the stability? I prompted, raising an eyebrow. I just want more, she said. More. Not, better communication, affection, or any other mutually grown-up marital stuff. Just more. I waited for the other shoe to drop. And drop it did. I want an open relationship, she announced, as if that were the most reasonable thing anyone could ever say. The words hung in the air like smoke from an explosion in a romantic comedy gone horribly wrong. I blinked. Processed. Rewind. Replay. Open relationship? She wanted to stay married to me, but sleep with other men. You want what? I asked, my voice calm, but inside I was auditioning for a silent movie panic scene. An open marriage, she repeated, with all the confidence of someone who'd rehearsed this speech in front of a mirror and her cat. I want the freedom to explore other connections while maintaining what we have here. Lots of couples do it, Daniel. It's called being mature about relationships. I could practically hear the PowerPoint slides in her head. Slide 1. How to tell your husband you want to cheat with his blessing. You want me to let you cheat on me? I asked, flatly, marveling at the audacity. It's not cheating if we both agree to it, she said defensively. It's honesty. It's admitting monogamy is outdated and doesn't work for everyone. So, you've already picked out the guy? I asked bluntly. My tone suggested that if she had, he'd better be very, very rich. There might be someone. Yes. But that's not the point. The point is freedom. Authenticity. Not being trapped by arbitrary rules. Ah yes. Arbitrary rules. Like not stabbing your spouse in the emotional intestines with a shiny, polished letter of infidelity. And what do I get out of this arrangement? You get to stay married to me, she said sweetly, like she was handing me a coupon for disappointment. You get to keep the life we've built, and you get the same freedoms I'm asking for. I stared, blinked, actually considered checking my pulse. I don't want intimacy with other women, Michelle. I want to be married to my wife, I replied, slowly enunciating every word, like explaining algebra to a confused toddler. That's your choice, she said coldly. But you can't make that choice for me anymore. The mask had fully dropped. She wanted the security I provided while she chased thrills elsewhere. She wanted me to be her cuckold. No, I said firmly. The word hit harder than intended, but it was fully 100% met. No, she echoed, surprised. I'm not doing it. I'm not agreeing to an open marriage. I'm not giving you permission to cheat while I pay your bills. Her face shifted from shock to anger faster than a demolition ball on a concrete slab. You can't just refuse to discuss this, she exploded. I'm not discussing it. I'm rejecting it completely, I said. This is exactly what I'm talking about, she fumed. You're so rigid, so closed-minded. You can't even have an adult conversation about what I need. What you need, I said, sarcastic as a late-night comedian, is intimacy with other men while staying married to me. Did I miss anything? You're being crude and reductive, she snapped. This is about emotional fulfillment. About me. It's about you wanting to be a wife while keeping a husband, I interrupted. She stood up sharply, flushed with rage. How dare you call me that? What else do you call a married woman who wants to sleep around? My friends warned me you'd react this way, she said defensively, crossing her arms like a child caught with cookie crumbs on her face. Your friends? I said slowly. The ones encouraging you to destroy your marriage? They're encouraging me to live authentically, to stop settling for less than I deserve, she said proudly. And what I deserve, I said sweetly with a comic timing that would make an improv troupe proud, is a husband who pays the bills while you sleep with other men. If you can't give me what I need emotionally and physically, then yes, I deserve to find it elsewhere, she said defiantly. I looked at the woman I'd loved for 7 years, really looked at her. The contempt in her eyes wasn't new. It had been simmering, building, fermenting like bad wine. Then leave, I said. The words came out calm, final, like a judge announcing a guilty verdict. No anger, no pleading, just cold reality. What? She asked, stunned, like I just suggested she replace the living room carpet with lava tiles. If I can't give you what you deserve, then leave. Get a divorce. Find a man who can, I explained, trying to keep my voice steady while imagining the headlines. Local man finally reaches peak patience. Michelle stared at me like I'd slapped her across the face with a blueprint. This wasn't in the script her friends had so thoughtfully drafted for her. You're not serious? She whispered, disbelief dripping from every syllable. Dead serious, I said. You want freedom? Take it. Explore other connections? Go for it. But you're not doing it while married to me. She switched tactics like a cartoon villain flipping through a book of evil plans. Tears. Promises. Seduction. She even tried the classic move, moving closer and touching my arm. I physically removed her hand like extracting a spider from my forehead. You're not staying here, I told her. Her face contorted into a combination of rage, betrayal, and you ruined my fun. She grabbed her purse and keys, her fingers curling like she was preparing to hex me. You'll regret this, Daniel. You'll realize what you lost, and by then it'll be too late, she warned, voice trembling with melodrama. The only thing I'm losing, I replied, calm as a monk in a sauna, is a wife who wants to cheat on me. I'll survive, I added for good measure. Michelle slammed the door so hard the windows rattled. I could practically hear the echo of my sanity collapsing as her car tires squealed down the driveway. My phone was already in my hand, naturally. Before I even decided to pick it up, I opened the browser and typed best divorce attorney near me because apparently, today was going to be that kind of day. I didn't even flinch. The next morning I called in sick. First time in 3 years I'd missed work for anything other than actual illness. By 8 a.m., I was sitting in the leather chair-filled, diploma-covered waiting room of Williams & Associates. Family law. Robert Williams, mid-50s, gray at the temples, expensive suit, and the kind of calm expression that screams, I've seen 7 divorces today and I'm not even shocked. Tell me what happened, he said, pulling out a legal pad. I laid it all out. Michelle's demands. Her threats. The months of emotional manipulation. I delivered it all like a sports commentator, calm, factual, with maybe a hint of incredulity. Williams listened without judgment, occasionally jotting something down, probably muttering, "Wow, humans are ridiculous," under his breath. When you finished, do you want to save this marriage? He asked like I was supposed to weigh my options with a magic 8-ball. No, I said. Instant certainty. Clear, clean, precise. Good. That makes this easier, he said, flipping through notes like a seasoned poker player. No kids. Confirmed. House. Likely mine because I actually show up and pay for things. Temporary spousal support? Maybe, but minimal. Her unemployment weakened her case. Thank God for small mercies. What's your advice on strategy? I asked, already picturing the paperwork pile in my head. Strike fast and hard. Serve her before she has time to plan or hide assets. File on irreconcilable differences, but document her demands, Williams said, like he was describing a military operation instead of a divorce. He pulled out a retainer agreement. 5,000 down, papers ready by Monday, served by Tuesday. Can we do it faster? I asked, trying not to sound like I was ordering fast food. How fast? He asked. Today. This afternoon, I said. Williams studied me, probably deciding if I was a rational human or a man possessed by marital fury. Extra cost for rush service, but yes. Papers ready by lunch, served by 4 p.m. I signed the check. $6,000. Worth every penny. Driving home, past the elementary school where we'd planned to send imaginary future kids, past the park we used to stroll through on Sunday mornings, everything looked familiar, but I felt like I was seeing it all for the first time. Michelle's car was in the driveway. She must have come home after I left, expecting me to beg, negotiate, or at least pout dramatically. Instead, she found an empty house and a husband who had spent his morning hiring a lawyer. I found her in the living room, still wearing yesterday's dress, wrinkled now, makeup smudged like she'd been crying or practicing for a horror role. She looked up and I could see hope in her eyes. Hope that I'd come to my senses. "Daniel, I'm so glad you're here," she began, eagerness in her voice. "I've been thinking all night and maybe we can save it." "I meant everything I said," I interrupted. The hope drained from her eyes faster than a bucket in a bathtub, replaced with something much harder, much colder. "So what now? You want to punish me for being honest about my needs?" "I'm not punishing you. I'm giving you She's inside," I said, stepping aside. Michelle appeared behind me, still looking like a deer caught in headlights. "I'm Michelle Foster. I have legal documents for you," the man said, handing her the envelope and pulling out a clipboard. "I need you to sign acknowledging receipt." I watched the color drain from Michelle's face faster than ice in a sauna. Her hands trembled as she signed the form. The process server left without ceremony, like a pizza delivery guy who didn't even wait for a tip. Michelle stood there holding the envelope like it might explode. "What is this?" she whispered. "Your freedom," I answered, voice dripping with all the patience of a saint and all the smugness of a man finally winning at life. She tore open the envelope, pulled out the divorce papers and read the first page. Her face went through every emotion known to mankind. Disbelief, shock, and then pure rage, like someone had told her coffee was actually just hot bean water. "You filed for divorce today?" she demanded, incredulity practically dripping off her. "This morning," I confirmed. "You can't be serious. We haven't even tried to work this out," she protested. "There's nothing to work out. You want an open marriage, I want a divorce. We're both getting what we want," I said, delivering it like a game show host announcing the winning lottery numbers. "This is insane. You're throwing away our entire marriage because I was honest about my feelings," she shouted, waving the papers like a flag of betrayal. "I'm ending our marriage because you stopped being my wife," I replied calmly. "Pack your bags, Michelle. You need to be out of this house tonight." "You're kicking me out?" she gasped. "I'm asking you to leave. This is still legally your house too for now. But I don't want you here," I clarified, because apparently sarcasm and clarity are two of my strongest skills. "Where am I supposed to go?" she pleaded. "Call your sisters. I'm sure they'll help you celebrate your newfound freedom," I suggested, trying not to smirk too obviously. For the first time since this whole thing began, Michelle looked genuinely scared. The reality was hitting her like a brick. She'd gambled our marriage on my willingness to be humiliated, and guess what? She lost. By 7 o'clock, Michelle had packed what fit in her car. She kept trying to restart the conversation, desperately fishing for some loophole that might make me change my mind. I, however, had moved past anger into a frosty, detached calm. I stood in the doorway watching her load the last suitcase. She glanced back at the house like she was seeing it for the first time, or maybe finally seeing what she'd actually lost. "I'll call you tomorrow," she said hopefully. "When you've had time to think about this." "Don't," I replied, with all the finality of a judge banging the gavel. She drove away slowly, probably expecting me to sprint after her with some grand romantic gesture. Instead, I closed the door and locked it. Immediately, the house felt different, quieter, cleaner, like the air had finally cleared of toxic fumes. Around 9 o'clock, my phone buzzed. Text from Michelle. "I'm staying at my parents'. Please think about what you're doing. We can fix this." I deleted the message without a second thought. Sleep that night was better than I'd had in months, the kind of blissful, undisturbed sleep that makes you question why you ever tolerated nonsense in the first place. Next morning, Michelle returned with reinforcements, her parents flanking her like bodyguards at a royal wedding, as we all took seats in the living room. Michelle began to explain, and her mother, Patricia, leaned forward with that gentle but firm parenting tone that clearly said, "We're morally superior and slightly confused. And while we don't agree with how she approached the situation, we think you're overreacting," Patricia said. "Overreacting to what exactly?" I asked, tilting my head like she just suggested I replace the roof with paper mache. Her father, Frank, leaned forward, intensity radiating. "She had some concerns about your marriage, Daniel. Maybe she didn't express them perfectly, but throwing her out and filing for divorce, that's extreme." I turned to Michelle. "Did you tell them what you actually asked for?" Michelle's eyes darted away. "I told them we had a disagreement about the future of our relationship," she mumbled. "That's an interesting way to put it," I replied. Turning back to her parents, I continued, "Did she mention that she demanded an open marriage?" That she wanted permission to sleep with other men while staying married to me? The silence that followed was deafening. Patricia's expression shifted from sympathetic to confused. Frank looked like someone had punched him in the stomach. Michelle? Frank's voice was dangerously quiet. Is that true? Michelle squirmed under her father's gaze. It's more complicated than that. Did you, or did you not ask Daniel to agree to an open marriage? I demanded, I said, finishing her sentence for her like a helpful narrator. I suggested that maybe we could explore, she stammered. Jesus Christ, Frank muttered, burying his face in his hands. Michelle, what the hell were you thinking? Those women, Patricia interjected suddenly, realization dawning. Those friends of yours. This was their idea, wasn't it? Michelle's silence said it all. Frank stood abruptly. We're leaving. Patricia, get your purse. Frank, wait, Patricia protested. No. I'm not sitting in this man's house and listening to our daughter explain why she thought it was acceptable to destroy her marriage, he declared firmly. Looking at Michelle with disgust, he added, I raised you better than this. Daddy, please, Michelle pleaded. Don't daddy me, Frank said coldly. You made your choice. You wanted to act like a single woman. Now you are one. Patricia tried to mediate. Michelle, honey, maybe you could apologize. Try to work things out. There's nothing to work out, I interjected, sipping my coffee like the human embodiment of calm sarcasm. Your daughter made it very clear what she thinks of me and our marriage. I'm just giving her what she asked for. I made a mistake, Michelle protested desperately. I got bad advice from friends who I thought cared about me. But that doesn't mean we have to throw away 7 years. You threw it away, Frank said coldly, voice slicing through the tension like a saw through plywood. The moment you decided Daniel wasn't enough for you. After they left, the house felt even quieter, the kind of quiet that's equal parts peace and vindication. Michelle's parents had seen the situation clearly and supported my decision, and that meant more than they probably knew. My phone started ringing around noon. Michelle calling from her parents' house. Tears, apologies, promises to do better, pleas for me to reconsider. I let every call go to voicemail, deleting the messages faster than an embarrassing Instagram post. She called 6 more times that day. I didn't answer any of them. The next few days followed a pattern. Multiple calls, increasingly desperate voicemails, long texts explaining how sorry she was. She even showed up at the house twice. I didn't answer the door. I had better things to do, like breathing. On Thursday, she sent a particularly long text. I left the group, told them I never wanted to see them again. I know what they did to me. How they poisoned my mind against you. Please, Daniel, can we just talk? I'll do anything to fix this. I called Robert Williams instead. She's panicking, I told him. Calling constantly, showing up at the house, promising to change everything. Classic pattern, Williams replied like a marriage therapist/divorce Yoda. Reality is setting in. Any contact from her lawyer yet? I don't think she's hired one, I said. She'll probably be shopping around, Williams explained, trying to find someone who'll take the case on contingency. Unemployed spouse in a divorce has limited options. That night, Michelle tried a new tactic. Instead of calling, she parked in the driveway around 9 p.m. and just sat there. Car. Engine off. Lights on. Silent pleading mode activated. I watched her through the bedroom window, my own private spectator sport. Slumped over the steering wheel, occasionally wiping her eyes. This was the same woman who, 3 months ago, had demanded an open marriage with the confidence of a Bond villain announcing her evil plan. Now she looked like a rejected ice cream cone left out in the sun. After an hour, she gave up and drove away. The next night she was back. And the night after that. By Sunday I'd had enough. I saw her car pull up and decided it was time for a little conversation. I walked outside and approached the driver's side window. Michelle rolled it down, hope lighting up her face. Daniel, I've been hoping we could. Stop coming here, I interrupted. Just like that, hope evaporated like morning dew. I just want to talk, she pleaded, voice trembling. There's nothing to say. You made your choice. I made mine. It's over, I said firmly, voice dripping with finality and maybe just a hint of glee. It doesn't have to be over. We can go to counseling, she suggested, desperation practically visible in the air around her. Michelle, listen carefully, I said, leaning in as if I were about to deliver the State of the Union. You asked me to let you cheat on me. When I said no, you threatened to leave. I called your bluff. That's the end of the story. But I realize now how wrong I was, she protested. You realize now that your plan backfired. You thought I'd agree to some version of what you wanted. Instead, you're facing divorce and living in your parents' basement, I responded. I love you, she whispered. No, you don't. You love the security I provided. But you don't love me. If you did, you never would have asked me to agree to your cheating, I said, delivering it with all the calm, cutting sarcasm of a man who'd just been handed the world's worst friendship bracelet. Michelle started crying again. Daniel, please. Doesn't marriage count for anything? It counted for everything. Until you decided it wasn't enough, I replied, turning and walking back into the house like a man strolling past a puppy that just bit him. She sat there for another hour, but I didn't even glance out the window. She didn't come back after that night. The calls and texts gradually tapered off, like the volume on a bad radio station finally broken. 3 weeks after I filed, Williams called with an update. She hired a lawyer. Cheapest one she could find, he reported. Called this morning wanting to discuss settlement terms. What kind of settlement? I asked. The usual. She wants the house, half the retirement accounts, permanent spousal support. Standard wish list for an unemployed spouse, he explained. And what did you tell him? Williams chuckled. I told him to review the circumstances that led to the filing and call me back when he had more realistic demands. 2 days later, Michelle's lawyer called back. She was accepting the settlement. Half the liquid assets, about $8,000 total, her car, personal belongings, and 6 months of temporary spousal support. I kept the house, retirement accounts, my truck. A clean break. I felt nothing. No relief, no satisfaction, no gloating, just completion. Like finishing a long and unpleasant job. The courthouse was exactly what you'd expect. Marble floors, fluorescent lights, and an institutional vibe that said, yes, this is the moment your life becomes official paperwork. I sat outside courtroom 3C, wearing the same suit I'd worn to our wedding 7 years earlier. Michelle arrived 15 minutes late, bargain basement lawyer in tow. She looked terrible. Thin. Pale. Dress from the clearance rack. The confident woman who demanded an open marriage 3 months ago was gone, replaced by someone who looked like she'd lost a bet with reality. When they called our case, we filed into the courtroom like opposing armies laying down weapons. Judge Patricia Hernandez presided, a no-nonsense woman in her 50s who had probably seen every variation of human marital failure, including men who hoard power tools and women who hoard bad ideas. This is an uncontested dissolution of marriage based on irreconcilable differences, the judge announced. Both parties have agreed to the terms of settlement. Mrs. Foster, is that correct? Yes, Your Honor, Michelle whispered, sounding like a cat in a vacuum cleaner commercial. Mr. Foster? The judge asked. Yes, Your Honor, I confirmed, trying not to smile too smugly. Judge Hernandez flipped through several pages. Mrs. Foster, you understand that you're waiving your right to permanent spousal support in exchange for 6 months of temporary support? Yes, Your Honor, Michelle replied quietly. And you're both satisfied that this settlement is fair and equitable? She nodded. Finally, Judge Hernandez signed the documents. Kiera spun back to me. Noah, you know me. She doesn't love you like I did. She's just using you until something better comes along. I sighed. That's exactly what you did to me. For Sam, who, by the way, turned out to be worse at running a business than he was at being a loyal friend. Her voice went full banshee. This is all your fault. You ruined everything. You sabotaged Sam's business. You turned people against us. Sam sabotaged himself, I said. He did terrible work and screwed over clients. I just happened to know the contractors who had to fix his mistakes. Paige was grinning now, the kind of grin that should come with popcorn. Let me get this straight, she said. You cheated on him, left him for his best friend, your husband's business failed because he was incompetent, and somehow that's Noah's fault? Kiera's glare could have melted steel. You don't know anything about our relationship. I know you betrayed someone who loved you, Paige said evenly, and then came crawling back when your life imploded. That tells me everything I need to know. Kiera lunged forward like she might actually go for Paige, but Paige didn't even flinch, just shifted slightly in her chair, cool as a glacier. You want to try something physical? She asked. Because I've seen your wedding photos on social media. You looked beautiful that day. Shame about your intoxicated husband announcing your affair timeline to 250 people. That one hit like a precision airstrike. Before things could escalate, another woman, Haley, one of Kiera's last remaining friends, appeared and grabbed her arm. Kiera, stop this right now. You're making a scene. Haley, tell them I'm not crazy. Tell them what really happened. Haley looked mortified. I'm so sorry, she said to us. She's been drinking since the divorce. Kiera, we're leaving now. No, I'm not done. Yes, you absolutely are, Haley said, physically dragging her toward the exit. Please enjoy your evening. As they left, Kiera screamed over her shoulder, "This isn't over, Noah. You'll regret this." I raised my glass. I seriously doubt that. The restaurant went silent for about 10 seconds. Then, as if nothing happened, conversation resumed. Paige clinked her glass against mine. "Well," she said, "that was entertaining." "She seems stable," I replied. Paige smirked. She used to hide the crazy better when she had money and status. We finished dinner in peace, tipped our server extra for the show, and went home to the house we'd bought together 6 months earlier. No drama. No exes showing up uninvited. Just two people who actually know how to treat each other, starting our lives together. Paige and I bought a house in the foothills with views so ridiculous they could make a monk rethink his vows. Seriously, stand on the deck with a coffee in the morning, and your soul briefly questions whether you even deserve oxygen. We're both crushing it professionally and personally. Last week, I'm installing a smart home system for some tech executive, because apparently it's still fun to wire someone else's mansion, and my phone rings. Number I didn't recognize, but curiosity killed exactly 0 cats, so I answered. "Noah, it's Sam," came the cheery world's most awkward voice. I had not heard from him in almost 2 years. The last I knew, through the grapevine, his HVAC business had imploded like a cheap souffle and he was working for someone else's company. "What do you want, Sam?" I asked, already tasting the stale bitterness of this conversation. "Look, I know I messed up. I know what we did was wrong," he said, voice trembling like a chihuahua in a thunderstorm. "But I'm trying to rebuild my life and I could really use some work. Thought maybe you might have some projects that need HVAC." I stared at the ceiling for a long beat. The nerve. The audacity. Betray a friend for months, crash your own business, and now you want referrals? "You're calling me for referrals?" I said, voice calm but deadly. "I'm desperate, man. The divorce cleaned me out. My business is gone. I'm living in a studio apartment and working for $18 an hour. I made mistakes, but I'm trying to do better," he sputtered. "Well, I can't help you," I said. "Noah, please. I know I messed up our friendship," he begged, and I hung up, went back to programming the lighting scenes and felt nothing. Absolutely nothing. That chapter was sealed in concrete, locked away, and thrown in the river of forgotten bad ideas. The funny thing? Kiera and Sam probably thought they were upgrading when they got together. She wanted someone more ambitious than me, and he wanted someone who understood business strategy. They convinced themselves they were more compatible, more aligned, and somehow adulting at a higher level. Turns out, both were just shallow people who confused being busy with actually achieving something and thought networking cocktails were equivalent to real progress. When the heat came and character actually mattered, they had nothing to fall back on. Nada. So, just two people flailing in the shallow end of life, hoping nobody notices the water's missing. The best revenge? Not making your enemies suffer. That's amateur hour. The real win is building a life so good that their opinions don't even register. Let them stew in the consequences of their choices while I focus on a future with someone who actually deserves my time, energy, and attention. Speaking of the future, Paige and I are talking about starting our own family soon. She'd be an incredible mother, and I'm actually excited about raising kids who will understand integrity and hard work from the beginning. Love this story? Like, share, and subscribe for more epic audio adventures. Stay curious and keep listening.